Приближается гроза.
Ты говоришь так, словно этого ждешь.
Я все выдержу.
I really wanted to finish Bruce Wayne's story. We'd done 2 acts of a 3-act story in a sense, and the challenge for me was to really figure out the reason to take another trip to Gotham City and to invite the audience to take that with us. Once we'd really figured out where our story went, where it wound up, what Bruce's conclusion is in a sense, then it became something I had to do and really wanted to show to the world, and that's what we've done and that's where we are.
Well, he has to become Batman again, and that's through the inspiration of a couple of characters, a couple of new characters, through Selina Kyle, who approaches him as though she couldn't care less that he was Bruce Wayne, which is obviously a breath of fresh air to him because everyone is nervous to be in his presence. And she doesn't care anything about who he is. She's rude, she's brash, she steals from him, and he finds that humorous and he finds that colorful, and it starts to make him interested in people again. And then he meets with Blake, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, who inspires him because he reminds him of who he used to be and of his altruism.
Кто ты? Порождение Готэма.
It was a delight and an honor. I've been a fan of Batman ever since I was 4 years old or something. I think everybody has. He's the cool superhero. He wears black.
It was very fun. I was scared actually sometimes that I was having too much fun. I thought I should be working a bit harder, but this was the sort of movie where the harder you worked, the more fun it was.
I get to lay down. I get to do it all from a bed, and I thought those days were over.
I knew that the franchise was extraordinary. I'd seen the films, and Chris is rightly so regarded as the greatest living filmmaker. I was really excited to be a part of it. I was apprehensive that, I would be the new kid and that I might stick out like a sore thumb in a way that I didn't want to. But everyone was really inclusive. Chris, made me feel right at home right from the beginning and was great at giving me a wonderful direction where to start with the character. And so by my 3rd day on set, I didn't remember that I hadn't been in the first 2 films. I felt very much at home and very accepted.
Его убили?
Я не знаю.
Почему ты просто меня не убьешь? Тебя ждет более суровое наказание.
I've been a fan of Chris's work ever since Memento came out in theaters. I remember when Batman Begins came out, and I said to myself, oh, the filmmaker who made Memento is now doing a Batman movie. That's interesting. I'll go see that, because I hadn't seen the last few Batman movies. And I loved it. And then The Dark Knight was just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And so, yeah, I'm just so grateful to be a part of it.
I've learned working with him that it's possible to make these large-scope movies but retain a sense of character there, that you don't have to lose that because that so often happens in these large movies. It just becomes about the action. Every fight sequence must not be just a fight sequence for the sake of it. It has to tell you something about the character, otherwise forget it. You should just cut that whole thing out. And having Tom as an adversary was very good for that because he's such a good actor that he was able to bring that to the table as well. And also a respect for these kinds of movies. Chris has incredible integrity, and consequently, when he tells me this should be the final one, I listen to him and say, okay, this is goodbye.
I think one of the things that I really learned from him is that that being stressed out won't make a better product. He is so brilliant. So capable. He knows every aspect of filmmaking inside out and backwards and forwards. But he never loses his cool. There are crazy stunts going around. He stays completely calm. So I learned a lot about, just kind of, in a way, how to approach life, not just films, from that. And he's a really good person. And he never... I don't know why, but I've always imagined that if somebody is that talented, that successful, that brilliant, that they would maybe lose their humanity in some way, and he just hasn't. He's a deeply wonderful person, as well as being an extraordinary filmmaker.
He's very focused, and knows what he wants, and is making a very, very big movie, although you wouldn't know it. You know, he doesn't seem to really change very much from film to film. I mean, he does it in a very calm way. There he is, you know, just, you know, doing it with his cup of tea. It's just kind of like, he's very calm, isn't he? And it's
Fair, yeah.
You know, I've never seen him get overly, you know, agitated or lose his temper or raise his voice. You know, he doesn't throw fits and tantrums.
Думаешь, он вернется?
Я не знаю. Почему ты сбежала? Из-за Бэйна?
Ты должен бояться его так же, как и я.
The end of The Dark Knight left the characters in a pretty interesting place. I felt very strongly we're trying to make one unified story here, so it's not another, you know, episode and not another Batman episode, if you like. For me, that meant really trying to be true to where the characters were left. And Bruce Wayne, as Batman, has made a rather large sacrifice at the end of The Dark Knight. For that to mean something, he really has to have succeeded, in a sense, in his mission. He has to have a Gotham that, at least superficially, doesn't need Batman anymore. And that leaves him frozen, in a sense. And the 8-year period is about showing that he's retired, in a sense. He's hung up his cape and his cowl, but he hasn't been able to move on. He's stuck. And the jumping off point for the story really is, how can this person who has become disconnected, who is in a sort of self-imposed exile from society, how can he reconnect with life?
We wanted to show a frail Bruce Wayne. We wanted to show, as we always have, wanted to show the physical consequences of what he does. We wanted to show the mental consequences of what he's done. And at the end of The Dark Knight, he made a choice, which was against all of his ethics, but which in the short term seemed to be the right choice to make, and probably was in the short term. But in the long term, the truth is coming out, and he recognizes that the foundation of peace within Gotham is based on a lie. And he feels incredible remorse. He's become more of a recluse than we've ever seen him before. He's racked with guilt, and Batman has disappeared completely.
Я не хочу хоронить тебя. Я похоронил многих из семьи Уэйн.
Ты больше ничего не должен этим людям. Ты отдал им все.
Не все. Пока еще.
There are a couple of people in the film, Marion Cotillard and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who I'd worked with in Inception, who I really wanted to work with again because they're just incredible talents. Tom Hardy also I'd worked with in Inception, and he felt to me the obvious choice for somebody who would take on the challenge of portraying this monstrous character who expresses all kinds of evil and malevolent intent, really just through his eyes, because his face is mostly obscured with a mask, his eyes and his voice. And Tom was very much up for the challenge of presenting a face of evil in that way. And I think what he's done is going to be very threatening to audiences in a way they're not used to seeing.
Tom is a phenomenal actor. He used the obstacle of his mask to be a positive. He's incredible in being able to convey all that he needs to just with his eyes, despite the mask covering most of his face. He was the first adversary that Batman has come across who is physically dominant over Batman, and especially since we're meeting Batman at a physically frail state, and he has to try to recover himself, and he has to try to recover his strength both mentally and physically as well.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Tom's so brilliant.
Yeah, he's a lot scary like that, Tom. You know, he's not as violent, but he's unpredictable.
He's almost as violent.
Almost as violent.
Yeah.
Yeah. But amazing sort of. I just think the sheer physical transformation of him is amazing.
Говорила мне мама, не садись в машину к незнакомцам.
Это не машина.